when I was in elementary school. I think Mary Ann said I was his youngest student. Was that right? It was. I guess I didn't know that at the time. But I used to ride my bike to the house with the trumpet case stuck out the side, the whole thing. And I remember those early lessons very clearly, very, very sharply. I remember the kids' noise in the background. I remember dinner cooking in the oven. And I remember most of all that they were fun. These lessons were fun. He made it fun. He was so comfortable to be with. And I remember looking and watching him very closely all the time. I realized that he had very expressive eyebrows. and they moved up and down when he played. And I asked him about that, and he said, well, he joked that this was a very, very important part of brass playing. and that I should learn to master this if at all possible. And later on, we would always joke it whenever I missed a note here or there. We'd both look at each other and we'd blame it on lack of eyebrow use. And that carried on all the time. Later on, I moved to lessons in Weston when he was at Weston High School, and we had him in the practice rooms at Weston. He helped me pick out my first professional grade trumpet. And then, being the educator that he was, he decided it was time for me to go to another teacher, to a private trumpet teacher. And his selection turned out to be, not surprisingly, very comfortable for me. And it might have ended there, except that when I went into the Greater Boston Youth Symphony Orchestra, Bob was conducting the orchestra. And so I got to see him. He was my conductor now and not my private teacher. And that went on for a few years. And when it came time for me to go to college and get serious about music, the Corley family was again the go-to people. John and Bob both tossed back and forth where I should go, and I think John wanted me to go to New Mexico. But that seemed kind of far away. I didn't end up going there. And when I was at Ithaca College in New York, I ordered some music through a brass company, and along with the music came a little note from Bob. Robert King Music. And that surprised me, but once again, we had a connection. He invited me back, and I was a counselor at the Gypso camp, and we started to have sort of a more professional relationship, which was really, really great at the time. I really never realized how long that connection would last between Bob and I. When I graduated from college and got my first teaching job, I of course went into Carl Fisher to choose my band music, and there it was. And big smile, and I could order from a catalog, but why do that when you could go in and talk to Bob? And I got spoiled again asking for his recommendations and getting his advice. And he organized all the music when I managed the Massachusetts All-State Band, and took that big job off my hands, and I felt really comfortable knowing that he was going to be doing that. And again, that might have ended there, but I began to conduct a group called the Metropolitan Wind Symphony, which is an adult wind ensemble in Boston, and I was new to that, and I looked up and there was Bob in the trombone section. And that was both exciting and a little intimidating. This was pretty new to me, the young kid, and here's Bob with more experience than I could ever imagine sitting there with that silver trombone of his, with the U.S. stamped on the front, which I always thought was really cool. It's probably a good time to talk about Bob's trombone playing as well. I can remember as a young student just being totally enamored with his sound on the trombone. It was silky smooth, as we say. It was like butter. And it seemed so effortless for him to create this sound on trombone. And I just remember just being totally fascinated by it. And a few years back, the last time I saw him, we had great conversations and traded stories back and forth. And one of the things I told him was that I thought that my entire concept of brass sound and brass playing had really come from listening to him. And he seemed, I think, surprised, but also I think a little bit pleased that I had mentioned that. And he was just such an easy person. And when I go into Carl Fisher and we talk about different things, and I talk about trumpet, as trumpet players do, you know, embouchures, brass players are always, you know, I'm doing this and this mouthpiece and that, and Bob would always say, you know, don't overthink it, you know, don't get too into it, just play, you know, just play. When I left my first teaching job in elementary school for when I moved on to south of Boston, I had a little girl come up to me whom I'd started on clarinet, and she looked at me and she said, "You can't go, you're our musical father." And yeah, my feeling exactly, I was crushed. And I was thinking about that today when I had to email over the weekend my Wednesday students, private students, to tell them that I was coming up here for Bob's funeral, and I said, you know, my first trumpet teacher has passed away. And I read that, and I said, no, that's not really right. It doesn't go far enough. Bob mentored me my entire career, and I think along me and a lot of other people consider Bob to be our musical father.